Hello, little dreamers, and welcome to our cozy corner of the world. It's so wonderful to have you join us tonight. Snuggle down deep into your blankets, close your eyes, and let's get ready for a magical journey together. Tonight, our story is called The Whisper of the Willow Tree, and it takes place in a secret, sun-dappled meadow that only the moonbeams know how to find. In the very heart of this meadow stood an ancient willow tree named Will-O-Wisp. Its branches were long and graceful, sweeping down to touch the cool green grass like gentle fingers. Will-O-Wisp wasn't just any tree, it was the keeper of all the meadow's secrets. It listened to the hum of the bees, the chatter of the squirrels, and the soft rustle of the wind. Every night when the stars began to twinkle, the littlest creatures of the meadow would gather beneath its leaves. One of these little creatures was a tiny field mouse named Pip. Pip was smaller than all his brothers and sisters, and while they were brave and bold, Pip was quiet and a little bit shy. He loved to listen more than he loved to talk. His favorite thing in the whole world was to curl up in a nest of clover at the base of Will-O-Wisp and listen to the stories the wind whispered through its leaves. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, a great hush fell over the meadow. The birds stopped singing, the crickets paused their chirping, and even the fireflies seemed to dim their lights. A worry had settled over the land. The little stream that zigzagged through the meadow, the one that gave everyone fresh, cool water to drink, was starting to run dry. Day by day, its cheerful gurgle had faded to a weak trickle. The bigger animals, the badger and the fox, held a meeting. "We must find a new source of water," grumbled the badger. "We will have to travel far beyond the meadow," said the fox with a sigh. All the little creatures looked very sad. The thought of leaving their beautiful home was almost too much to bear. Pip, listening from his clover nest, felt a knot of worry tighten in his tiny chest. He didn't want to leave the meadow. He loved the smell of the wildflowers, the feel of the soft moss, and most of all, he loved his friend, the old Will-O-Wisp. He looked up at the great tree, its leaves drooping sadly in the twilight. That night, as the moon climbed high into the sky, Pip couldn't sleep. He crept out of his burrow and scampered over to the base of the willow tree. "Oh, Will-O-Wisp," he whispered, his voice barely a squeak. "Is there anything we can do? I don't want to leave." The great tree seemed to stir. A gentle breeze rustled through its leaves, and it sounded like a soft, long sigh. Then, a single silvery leaf detached itself from a high branch and floated down, 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 landing right in front of Pip. It wasn't an ordinary leaf, it glowed with a faint pearly light, and on the breeze a whisper seemed to form, a voice as old as the meadow itself. "Listen to the heart of the mountain," it murmured. "The heart of the mountain?" Pip squeaked, his whiskers twitching with curiosity. "What does that mean?" The whisper came again, softer this time. "Follow the silent stones, they remember the way." Pip looked around. He had never heard of silent stones before. He knew the noisy, chattering stones in the stream, but silent ones. He looked down at the glowing leaf in his paws. It felt warm and comforting. Taking a deep breath, he decided he had to try. For his home, for his friends. With the glowing leaf held tight, Pip started his journey. As he ventured away from the familiar comfort of the willow, he noticed something he hadn't seen before. A faint path, almost invisible, was marked by a series of smooth, gray stones half buried in the earth. They were completely silent, unlike the stones in the creek bed. They seemed to absorb all sound around them. These must be the silent stones. The path led him out of the open meadow and into the deeper, quieter part of the woods that bordered the great, slumbering mountain. The air grew cooler, and the trees grew taller, their branches tangling together high above like a dark green ceiling. Pip felt a shiver of fear, but he clutched the glowing leaf and its gentle light pushed the scary shadows away. It was like carrying a tiny, brave star in his paws. He walked for what felt like a very long time, his little legs growing tired. The path of silent stones twisted and turned, leading him ever upward toward the mountain's base. Finally, he arrived at a wall of solid rock. It looked like a dead end. Pip's heart sank. Had he come all this way for nothing? He sat down, feeling defeated, and looked at the glowing leaf. Its light seemed to pulse, and the whisper of the willow tree echoed in his mind. Listen to the heart of the mountain. Pip closed his eyes and tried to listen. At first, all he could hear was the pounding of his own tiny heart. But he focused, just like he did when he listened to the wind in the willow branches. He listened past the sound of the crickets, past the hoot of a distant owl. And then he heard it. A very faint, rhythmic sound. Thump, thump. Thump, thump. It was deep and slow and steady, coming from inside the rock wall itself. The heart of the mountain. His eyes popped open. He scurried along the base of the rock wall, pressing his ear against the cold stone. The thumping grew stronger. He followed the sound until he came to a place where a thick curtain of ivy covered the rock. Pushing aside the leaves, he discovered a small opening just big enough for a mouse to squeeze through. The thumping sound was loudest here. Taking another brave breath, Pip squeezed into the darkness. Inside it was a cave, but not a scary one. The air was cool and damp, and the thumping sound echoed all around him. The glowing leaf lit the way, revealing walls that sparkled with tiny crystals, like a secret sky full of stars. He followed the sound deeper into the mountain's heart until he entered a large circular chamber, and there, in the center of the chamber, was the source of the sound. A spring of crystal-clear water was pulsing gently from the ground, creating ripples in a large underground pool. Thump, thump. With each pulse, a fresh gush of water emerged. This was the mountain's heart, the source of all the water for the land. But Pip saw the problem immediately. A large round boulder had rolled from the side of the cave and was sitting right on top of the spring, blocking most of the water. Only a tiny trickle could escape around its edges. Pip knew he could never move such a heavy rock on his own. He looked at the boulder, then back at the small trickle of water, and felt a wave of despair. But then he remembered Will-O-Wisp's words. He had listened. He had followed. He couldn't give up now. He examined the boulder closely. He noticed that underneath one side of the giant rock, a collection of smaller pebbles and loose dirt had wedged it tightly in place. Maybe I don't have to move the whole boulder, he thought. Maybe I just have to move the little things holding it. With a new sense of purpose, Pip set to work. He used his tiny paws and his strong front teeth to dig away the dirt and push the small pebbles out from under the big rock. It was hard work. He dug and he pushed, he scraped and he scurried, one tiny pebble at a time. The glowing leaf rested on a nearby ledge, lighting up his workspace. Hours passed. His paws were sore and his whiskers were covered in dust, but he didn't stop. Finally, with one last mighty shove, he dislodged the last key pebble. There was a low groan and the giant boulder shifted, teetering for a moment. Then, with a loud rumble, it rolled just a few inches to the side. It was enough. With a joyful gush, the water from the spring burst forth, free at last. The flow was strong and powerful now, filling the underground pool. The water found an old, forgotten channel in the cave floor and began to rush down it, flowing out of the mountain. Pip watched, his heart swelling with happiness. He had done it. He followed the new, rushing stream out of the cave and all the way back down the mountain. The water flowed along the path of the silent stones, right back toward the meadow. When Pip arrived, the sun was just beginning to rise, and the other animals were stirring. They stared in amazement as the fresh, clear water flowed into the old, dry stream bed, filling it once again with a happy, gurgling song. There were cheers and chirps of joy all across the meadow. The badger, the fox, and all his brothers and sisters crowded around Pip, asking him how he did it. For the first time, shy little Pip didn't hide. He stood tall and told them his story, of the willow's whisper, the glowing leaf, the silent stones, and the heart of the mountain. From that day on, no one ever thought of Pip as just a small, quiet mouse. He was Pip, the hero of the meadow. He still loved to sit beneath Will-O-Wisp, listening to the stories on the wind, but now he knew that even the smallest creature can have the biggest heart, and that listening carefully can be the bravest thing of all. And as the meadow settled into a peaceful, happy slumber, with the sound of its stream flowing strong and clear, Pip curled up in his clover nest, feeling cozy and content. He closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep, dreaming of starlit caves and whispering leaves. Good night, little dreamers. May your own dreams be filled with magic and adventure. Sleep well. Thank you so much for listening tonight. If you enjoyed our story, please give us a little like and subscribe to our channel for more cozy bedtime adventures. We can't wait to see you again. Sweet dreams.